Part 1. Jiwoo walked through the glowing corridors of the Galactic Harmony Institute with her head down, studying her datapad. The station was beautiful in ways Earth could never match. Walls pulsed with soft blue light from living organisms. The air smelled like flowers she had no name for. Alien students passed her in groups, their voices creating music in languages she was still learning. She had been at the academy for 3 months now. 3 months of being the only human student among thousands of aliens. 3 months of curious stares and whispered conversations that stopped when she came near. Most aliens were polite but distant. Some were friendly. A few made it clear they thought humans did not belong here. Jiwoo did not mind the isolation too much. She was used to being alone. Back on Earth, she had always felt different from other people, though she never understood why. Her adoptive parents loved her but sometimes looked at her with worry in their eyes. Her brother Hyun was protective in a way that seemed more like guarding than caring. Now she knew there were secrets about her past, but no one would tell her what they were. The datapad in her hands displayed notes about diplomatic protocol. Tomorrow she had an exam on proper greeting customs for 40 different species. She needed to memorize which ones considered eye contact respectful, and which ones thought it was threatening, which species shook hands, which touched antennae, and which absolutely should never be touched at all. Jiwoo turned a corner, still reading, and walked straight into something that felt like a wall made of muscle and scales. She stumbled backward and looked up. And up Kiran stood before her like a mountain. The Varkosian security chief was 8 feet tall with dark green scales that looked like armor plates. He had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. His eyes were yellow with black slits for pupils, and right now they stared down at her with pure hatred. "Watch where you walk, human," Kiran growled. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "I'm sorry," Jiwoo said quickly, stepping aside. "I didn't see you." She tried to move past him, but one of his massive hands shot out and grabbed her shoulder. The grip was crushing. Jiwoo gasped in pain. "You don't see many things, do you?" Kiran said. "Primitive little creature. Your kind should have stayed on your dirty little planet. You have no place among civilized beings." Other students had stopped to watch. Jiwoo saw Talon, a Draco student with silver scales and cold eyes, smiling from across the hall. He looked excited, like he was watching a show he had been waiting for. "Please let me go," Jiwoo said, trying to stay calm. "I apologized." Kiran's other hand grabbed her throat. He lifted Jiwoo off the ground with one arm like she weighed nothing. Her feet kicked in the air. She could not breathe. "You think an apology is enough?" Kiran's face came close to hers. His breath smelled like meat. "You think you can bump into me and just walk away? I should teach you respect." His third hand drew back and slapped her across the face. The hit was not a punch. It was worse. The force of it sent Jiwoo flying even though he still held her throat. She felt her neck nearly snap from the impact. Pain exploded in her head. Blood filled her mouth. Kiran threw her. Jiwoo crashed into the wall hard enough to crack the glowing panels. She slid to the floor, leaving a trail of blood. Her vision blurred. She heard gasps from the watching students. Someone screamed, but no one moved to help her. Jiwoo tried to push herself up. Her arms shook. Blood dripped from her nose and split lip onto the clean floor. She could taste it, metallic and warm. Her head felt wrong, like something had broken inside. "Stay down, human," Kiran said. "Learn your place." Something changed in that moment. Jiwoo felt it starting in her chest, spreading through her body like ice water in her veins. Her heartbeat slowed. The pain began to fade. Everything around her seemed to move in slow motion. The lights in the corridor flickered. Then they dimmed. Students looked up, confused. The temperature dropped so fast that some of the alien students started shivering. Frost formed on the glowing walls. Jiwoo stood up. She moved smoothly, easily, like she had not just been thrown into a wall. Blood still covered her face, but she was smiling. It was not a nice smile. Kiran took a step back. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had forgotten existed. Fear. Jiwoo's eyes had changed. The warm brown was gone. Now they were completely black. No iris, no white. Just endless darkness that seemed to pull light into them. When she looked at Kiran, he felt like he was staring into the void of space itself. Every alien in the corridor felt it too, a primal terror that bypassed logic and thought, striking directly at the most ancient parts of their brains, the part that remembered when their ancestors were prey, the part that knew what it meant to be hunted. Students ran. They did not think about it. They just ran, scrambling over each other to get away. Some of them were crying. Others were making distress calls in their native languages. Only Talon remained pressed against the far wall, too frozen with fear to move. Kieran's 4 hands trembled. He was a warrior. He had fought in 3 wars. He had killed things that would give nightmares to most species. But this small human girl with black eyes terrified him in a way nothing ever had. Jiwoo walked toward him. Each step was perfectly placed, perfectly balanced. She moved like a predator, and every instinct in Kieran's body screamed at him that he was the prey. She stopped 3 feet away. When she spoke, her voice had changed. It was deeper, colder, and it echoed in a way that should not be possible. Run. That single word hit Kieran like a physical force. His legs moved before his brain gave the command. The great Varkosian warrior ran. He ran like a child running from monsters in the dark. Behind him, he heard Jiwoo laugh, and the sound chased him down the corridor like something hungry. Then the lights came back on. The temperature returned to normal. The feeling of terror faded like a bad dream. Jiwoo collapsed. Hyun reached her first. He had been running toward the disturbance and arrived just as Jiwoo's eyes returned to their normal brown. She looked confused, disoriented. Blood still covered her face from the beating, but the wounds were already starting to heal at a speed that should not be possible. What happened? Jiwoo asked weakly. Why does everyone look scared? Why are you here? You don't remember? Hyun asked, but he already knew the answer. He had been briefed about this possibility. He just hoped it would never happen. Medical teams arrived with floating stretchers and scanners. They loaded Jiwoo onto a stretcher, speaking rapidly to each other in concerned tones. Dira, Jiwoo's roommate, pushed through the crowd. The crystalline alien's light patterns flickered with worry. As they took Jiwoo away, Hyun noticed something. Security cameras throughout the corridor were active, but the red recording lights had turned off exactly when Jiwoo's eyes changed color. Someone had stopped the recording. Someone wanted this hidden, but dozens of students had seen it, and in a station full of young people with communication devices, secrets did not stay secret for long. By the time Jiwoo reached the medical bay, half the station knew that something impossible had happened. The human girl's eyes had turned black, and even the toughest security officer had run away in fear. In his office, Kieran sat with his head in his hands, trying to stop them from shaking. On his desk, a secure communication channel blinked with an incoming message. It was from someone he had been secretly working with. Someone who had promised him that humans were dangerous and needed to be exposed. The message had only 2 words. It worked. Jiwoo woke up in the medical bay 3 days later. Her body felt strange, like it belonged to someone else. The white ceiling above her had soft lights that changed color slowly from blue to green to purple. It was supposed to be calming, but it just made her feel sick. Hyun sat in a chair next to her bed. His eyes were red like he had not slept. When he saw her wake up, relief flooded his face. How do you feel? He asked. Confused, Jiwoo said. Her throat was dry. What happened? I remember Kieran hitting me and then nothing. Why am I here? Hyun looked away. You don't remember anything after he hit you? No, did I pass out? Something like that. Hyun stood up and paced the room. Jiwoo, I need to tell you something. Something about who you are. About where you really came from. Before he could continue, the door opened. Elder Vesh entered, floating a few inches off the ground. The ancient alien looked like smoke given shape, with eyes that glowed like stars. He was the headmaster of the academy, and one of the most respected beings in the galaxy. I must speak with Jiwoo alone, Elder Vesh said. His voice was gentle but firm. Hyun looked like he wanted to argue, but he nodded and left. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss. Elder Vesh settled into the chair. He studied Jiwoo with those strange glowing eyes. Do you know what you did 3 days ago? He asked. Jiwoo shook her head. Your eyes turned black, completely black. And you made one of the toughest warriors in the galaxy run away in terror. You do not remember this? No, Jiwoo whispered. That's impossible. I have seen the security footage, Elder Vesh said. What the cameras captured before they mysteriously stopped recording. I have interviewed witnesses. I have run medical tests on you. The results are classified, but I will tell you this much. You are not entirely human, or rather you are more human than any human should be. Jiwoo felt cold. What does that mean? It means someone altered you before you were born, enhanced you, made you into something that can survive things that would kill normal humans. And when you are threatened, something wakes up inside you, Something very old and very dangerous. Meanwhile, in another part of the station, Kieran sat in his small apartment surrounded by holographic displays. He had not reported for duty since the incident. He told his superiors he was sick, but the truth was he could not stop thinking about those black eyes. He had spent 3 days researching everything he could find about humans. What he discovered terrified him more than the girl herself. Earth was classified as a Class 9 Deathworld. Kieran had to look up what that meant because he had never heard of any world above Class 4. Class 9 meant a planet so hostile that intelligent life should never have evolved there. The weather alone would kill most species. The predators were nightmare creatures. The diseases were aggressive and constantly evolving. Even the plants were often poisonous or carnivorous. Humans evolved by surviving all of that. They became the top predator on a world full of predators. They learned to hunt in packs, to use tools, to think and plan and cooperate. But they never lost their edge. The capacity for violence was still there, hidden under layers of civilization. Kieran found reports about human history. Wars that lasted for years, weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. Humans had almost made themselves extinct several times, and each time they survived by becoming even more dangerous. But the worst part was what he found in a classified military database. Someone had given him access, though he did not know who. The files talked about something called the apex trigger. When a human felt truly threatened, when they believed they might die, their body changed. Adrenaline flooded their system at levels that would stop the hearts of most aliens. Their muscles worked harder, ignoring the normal limits that prevented injury. Pain became distant. Time seemed to slow down. They became faster, stronger, more focused. Most humans never experienced a true apex trigger in their entire lives. Modern human society was too safe. But in rare cases, in people with certain genetic markers, something else happened. Something the files called the black eyes phenomenon. Kieran read the description over and over, trying to understand. Subjects with this condition did not just get stronger. They emitted some kind of energy that could not be measured by normal instruments. This energy triggered fear in every species tested. Not normal fear, but primal terror that bypassed all conscious thought. The files theorized that ancient humans used this as a defense mechanism against predators. Make yourself so terrifying that even a creature bigger and stronger than you would run away instead of fighting. Evolution had given humans a weapon that worked on the mind itself. A message appeared on Kieran's screen. It was from the same anonymous source that had given him access to the classified files. The message read, "Now you understand why they must be stopped. Earth is too dangerous to join the Galactic Council. Help us prove it." Kieran stared at the message for a long time. He had been manipulated into attacking Jiwoo. The anonymous contact had fed his prejudices, encouraged his hatred of humans, and set up the situation perfectly. But why? In the medical bay, Jiwoo listened as Elder Vesh explained what little he could tell her. She was part of something called Project Genesis. Earth had created enhanced humans as insurance against hostile alien species. She was one of 12 children born with activated genetic sequences that most humans carried but never used. "Why me?" Jiwoo asked. "Why would Earth do this?" "Because your people were afraid," Elder Vesh said. "When humanity discovered they were not alone in the universe, they feared they would be weak compared to species that had millions more years of evolution. So they made sure some of you would be strong enough to survive anything." "Am I even human anymore?" "More human than you think," Elder Vesh said gently. "What I saw in that corridor was not a monster. It was a frightened child who refused to stay down. Your enhancement did not make you violent. It made you capable of protecting yourself. What you choose to do with that capability is what matters." Dira came to visit later that day. The crystalline alien sat next to Jiwoo's bed, her lights pulsing in patterns that meant worry and affection. "Everyone is talking about you," Dira said through her translator device. "Some are scared. Some think you are amazing. Talon and his friends are spreading rumors that humans are dangerous and should be expelled." "Maybe they are right," Jiwoo said quietly. "Maybe I am dangerous." "No." Dira's lights flashed red, which meant she was angry. "You saved yourself. That security officer attacked you. You did nothing wrong." "I don't even remember what I did." "Then we will figure it out together," Dira said. "You are my friend. I do not care what your eyes look like when you are angry." That night Hyun returned with news. An Earth ambassador named Minho was coming to the station. He had orders to contain the situation and protect Jiwoo. But Hyun had also learned something else by hacking into Earth's secure networks. Jiwoo was not just any Genesis child. She was the first one, the prototype. The tests done on her were more extensive than the others. And somewhere in the classified files there was a note that made Hyun's blood run cold. Subject shows unusual resistance to sedation. Recommend extreme caution if termination becomes necessary. Earth had made Jiwoo, and if she became too much of a problem, Earth had plans to unmake her. Ambassador Minho arrived on the station 2 weeks after the incident. He was a tall man with gray hair and hard eyes that had seen too much. He wore a formal Earth diplomatic uniform and carried himself like a soldier, which Jiwoo later learned he had been before joining the diplomatic corps. The meeting took place in a secure conference room with walls that blocked all signals. Only 4 people attended: Ambassador Minho, Elder Vesh, Hyun, and Jiwoo. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. "I will not waste time with pleasantries," Minho said, placing a data chip on the table. "Jiwoo, everything you know about yourself is a lie. You were not adopted because your biological parents died. You were created in a laboratory 20 years ago as part of Project Genesis." Jiwoo felt like she had been hit again. "Created? Designed, grown, and trained from birth," Minho continued. "When humanity first detected alien signals, we faced a terrifying possibility. What if we were the weakest species in the galaxy? What if other races saw us as prey? So Earth Defense initiated Project Genesis." He activated the data chip. Holographic images appeared above the table showing DNA sequences, medical reports, and training records. Jiwoo saw herself as a baby, a child, a teenager. Each image was marked with clinical notes about her development. You and 11 others were engineered to carry activated versions of genetic sequences that exist in all humans, Minho explained. These sequences are evolutionary remnants from when humanity was still struggling to survive on Earth. Most humans have them locked away, dormant. But in you they work. The black eyes, Elder Vesh said quietly. "That is the activation state." "Yes," Minho confirmed. "When Jiwoo perceives a lethal threat, her body shifts into what we call combat mode. Strength increases by 300%. Reaction time accelerates. Healing speeds up dramatically. Pain receptors dull. And most importantly, she emits bioelectrical signals and pheromones that trigger fear responses in other species." "You made me into a weapon," Jiwoo said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "We made you into insurance," Minho corrected. "You were never supposed to activate. Never supposed to be noticed. You and the other Genesis children were placed throughout human society to live normal lives. Only if humanity faced extinction would you have been activated to defend our species." "But someone knew," Hyun said. "Someone set up that attack to force her transformation." Minho nodded grimly. "We believe the Draco's empire discovered Project Genesis through espionage. They are using this information to paint humanity as dangerous genetic manipulators who cannot be trusted in the Galactic Council." "Why would they care?" Jiwoo asked. "Because Earth joining the Council threatens their political power," Elder Vesh answered. "The Dracos have long sought to dominate Council policy through military intimidation. A coalition of peaceful species opposes them. If humanity joins that coalition with our industrial capacity and strategic thinking, Draco's dominance becomes impossible. So they want to get us kicked out before we can join fully," Hyun said. "Exactly," Minho said. And Jiwoo's transformation gave them perfect ammunition. Footage of her black eyes is spreading across the galactic network, despite our attempts to suppress it. Public opinion is turning against humanity. Several council members are demanding Earth's membership be revoked. Jiwoo stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the stars and the distant blue curve of a planet. She felt numb, like this was happening to someone else. "What happens to me now?" she asked without turning around. "That depends on you," Minho said. "Earth Command wants to bring you home, hide you away. But I think we need a different approach. We need to show the galaxy that Genesis children are not weapons, that you can control your abilities, that humans deserve their place in the Council." "How?" "By staying here. By continuing your education. By proving through your actions that you are not a threat." Meanwhile, in a luxurious apartment on the opposite side of the station, Talon met with his father through a secure holographic link. War Minister Corvan was an enormous Dracos with battle scars covering his silver scales. He looked pleased. "The first phase was successful," Corvan said. "The human girl's transformation has been documented and spread throughout the Council. Anti-human sentiment is rising. Now we move to Phase 2. The Concord Festival, Talon said, smiling. Yes, the festival is broadcast throughout the galaxy. If we can force another transformation in front of billions of viewers, the Council will have no choice but to expel humanity. And they will thank us for exposing the threat. What if she refuses to participate? She won't. The humans are desperate to show their girl is normal and safe. They will encourage her to perform. And when she does, we will be ready. Corbin's image leaned closer. Remember, my son, do not underestimate these humans. They are more dangerous than they appear. That is precisely why they must be stopped. Back in his apartment, Kieran could not sleep. The guilt was eating him alive. He had attacked an innocent student because of prejudice and manipulation. Worse, he now understood that his actions had played into a larger conspiracy. His anonymous contact had stopped messaging him after the incident. But Kieran had tracked the communication's origin, using skills he learned in military intelligence. The trail led to Draco's diplomatic channels. He had been used, turned into a tool to hurt someone who did not deserve it. The knowledge burned. Kieran made a decision. He would gather evidence of the conspiracy. He would find proof that the Dracos were manipulating events. And he would make things right even if it cost him his career. 3 days later, Jiwoo returned to classes. Students stared at her openly now. Some moved away when she approached. Others watched her with curiosity or fear. But Dira stayed by her side, and a few other students began to warm up to her after seeing she was not a monster. Ambassador Minho met with her regularly to train her. He taught her meditation techniques to maintain control. He explained the science behind her abilities. Most importantly, he helped her understand that she was still herself, still human, still in control of her choices. The black eyes are just a warning signal, Minho explained during one session. Like a rattlesnake's rattle. It tells threats to back off before violence becomes necessary. You did not attack Kieran. You gave him a chance to leave. That shows remarkable control. I don't remember doing it, Jiwoo said. That scares me. What if I hurt someone and don't remember? The memory loss is temporary, Minho assured her. It happens because your brain is processing so much information so quickly. But the more you experience it, the more you will remember. Your instincts are good, Jiwoo. Trust them. The Concord Festival approached. It was the Academy's biggest event, a celebration of unity and diversity. Students from every species would perform cultural demonstrations. Jiwoo was pressured to participate to show that humans were normal and peaceful. Against her better judgment, she agreed. She would perform a traditional martial arts form from Earth. It was beautiful and controlled, nothing threatening. It would show discipline and skill. What Jiwoo did not know was that Talon had already sabotaged the gravity controls in the performance arena. And when she stepped onto that stage, she would face a choice. Transform and confirm everyone's fears or die and take dozens of other students with her. The trap was set. The galaxy was watching, and Jiwoo was about to show everyone exactly what a human could do when there was no other choice. The Concord Festival transformed the Academy into a celebration of light and color. Students decorated the corridors with traditional art from their homeworlds. Music from 100 different cultures mixed in the air. The smell of alien foods drifted from the dining halls. For 3 days, politics and tensions were supposed to be forgotten. The main performance arena was enormous, with seating for 5,000 spectators and holographic projection systems that would broadcast every performance across the galaxy. Ambassadors and council members filled the VIP boxes. Cameras were everywhere. Jiwoo waited backstage with the other performers. She wore a simple white training uniform from Earth, her hair tied back. Dira stood beside her, pulsing with encouraging light patterns. You will be wonderful, Dira said through her translator. Do not think about the cameras. Just do what you have practiced. Easy for you to say, Jiwoo replied, trying to smile. You already performed yesterday. Your crystal harmonics were beautiful. That is because I was not being watched by the entire galaxy to see if I am a monster. Jiwoo appreciated her friend's blunt honesty. It was better than everyone else treating her like glass about to break. The announcer called her name. Jiwoo walked onto the arena floor. The lights were bright and hot. Thousands of alien faces watched her from the stands. The cameras tracked her every movement. She could see Ambassador Minho in the VIP section, his expression carefully neutral. She moved to the center of the arena and bowed in the traditional Earth manner. Then she began her form. The movements were ancient, passed down through centuries. Each motion flowed into the next with perfect control. Punch, block, kick, spin. It was martial arts, yes, but performed slowly and gracefully like a dance. It showed discipline, balance, and restraint. Exactly the image humanity wanted to project. Jiwoo was halfway through the form when the gravity changed. It happened instantly. One moment she moved normally. The next crushing weight pressed down on her from above. The gravity had surged to 15 times normal. Jiwoo dropped to one knee, gasping. Around the arena, other students who had stayed to watch were flattened to the ground. Screams filled the air. Bones cracked. Several crystalline species began to shatter under the pressure. Dira, who had been standing at the edge of the arena, fell hard. Cracks spread through her body like lightning. Security alarms wailed. In the control room, technicians frantically tried to shut down the gravity well, but someone had locked them out of the system. It would take at least a minute to override the security protocols. A minute was too long. Students were dying. Jiwoo looked at Dira. Her friend was trying to call out, but the pressure crushed the sound from her vocal synthesizer. More cracks appeared. In seconds, Dira would shatter completely. The apex trigger activated. Jiwoo felt it happen this time. The ice water in her veins. The slowing of time. The darkness spreading across her vision as her eyes turned black. But unlike before, she was conscious. She was aware. She was in control. The crushing gravity that should have pulverized her bones became background noise. She stood up smoothly, muscles straining but holding. 15 times Earth gravity was intense, but Earth gravity was already higher than most alien worlds. Her enhanced body could handle it. She moved toward Dira, each step deliberate. The cameras followed her, broadcasting to billions. They captured her black eyes, her determined expression, the way she moved like the gravity did not exist. Jiwoo reached Dira and carefully gathered her friend's cracking form. The crystalline alien was so fragile under this pressure. One wrong move would shatter her completely. Then Jiwoo did something no one expected. She looked up at the control panel, 60 feet away and 30 feet above the arena floor. Normal students could not reach it even in regular gravity. In 15 times gravity, it should have been impossible. She jumped. The leap defied physics. Even with her enhanced strength, the gravity should have pulled her down immediately. But Jiwoo's body had become something more than human in that moment. Muscles designed to survive Earth's Deathworld predators worked at their absolute limit. She reached the control panel and slammed her fist into the emergency access port. Alarms screamed louder. Then she did something brilliant. Instead of trying to shut down the gravity well, she redirected it. The control panel showed the gravity field distribution. With one hand still holding Dira with the other, she manually adjusted the parameters. She created a safe zone around the other students and focused all the gravitational force on one point: herself. The other students suddenly found they could breathe. The pressure lifted from their bodies. They looked around confused, not understanding what happened. Jiwoo stood at the control panel under gravity so intense it should have crushed her into paste. Blood ran from her nose and ears. Her muscles screamed. Bones creaked. But she held her position, holding Dira gently while bearing forces that would destroy a starship. In the observation deck, Talon watched in horror. This was not supposed to happen. The human was supposed to rampage, to attack, to prove she was dangerous. Instead, she was protecting everyone. 60 seconds. That was how long the emergency override took. To Jiwoo, it felt like hours. Every second was agony. Her enhanced healing worked overtime, repairing damage as fast as it occurred. Blood vessels burst and healed. Muscles tore and regenerated. Her spine compressed and her body forced it back into place. She never looked away from the students below. Never let Dira slip from her grip. Never stopped enduring. When the emergency systems finally rebooted and the gravity normalized, Jiwoo collapsed. She managed to set Dira down gently first, then she crumpled to the floor. Her body was broken in ways that would kill most beings instantly, but she was still conscious, still aware. Medical teams rushed in. They found Jiwoo's eyes had returned to normal brown. She looked up at the nearest doctor and smiled through bloody teeth. "Is everyone okay?" she asked. Those were her last words before unconsciousness took her. The footage went viral immediately. Within an hour, every inhabited world in the galaxy had seen it. The human girl with black eyes who could have escaped but chose to suffer instead. Who could have attacked but chose to protect. Reactions were mixed. Some species were terrified by the display of strength. Others were moved by the sacrifice. But everyone agreed on one thing. Whatever humans were, they were not simple or easy to understand. In the medical bay, doctors worked frantically to stabilize Jiwoo. Her injuries should have been fatal 10 times over. But her body was healing at a visible rate. Broken bones set themselves. Torn muscles knit back together. Within hours, she was stable. Within a day, she would be walking. Dira recovered too. Her crystalline structure would bear permanent fracture lines, but she was alive because a human girl refused to let her shatter. Ambassador Minho watched the footage again in his quarters. He had seen many brave things in his life, but this was different. Jiwoo had been given abilities that could make her a destroyer. Instead, she chose to be a protector. That was the human way, he thought. Not the strength, but the choice of how to use it. War Minister Corvin was furious. His plan had backfired spectacularly. Instead of proving humans were dangerous, Jiwoo had proven they were capable of incredible selflessness. Public opinion was shifting in unexpected directions, but Corvin was not finished. He still had evidence of Project Genesis. He still had proof that Earth had created genetic weapons. And the Galactic Council was about to convene a formal tribunal to decide humanity's fate. The real battle was just beginning. The tribunal chamber was older than most civilizations. Built by the first council races thousands of years ago, it stood as a symbol of justice and unity. The room was circular, with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Holographic displays floated in the air, translating proceedings into hundreds of languages simultaneously. Jiwoo stood on the central platform, wearing a simple earth dress. She was still healing from the festival incident, but she insisted on attending. Around her, thousands of representatives from member species watched. Cameras broadcast everything to billions across the galaxy. War Minister Corvin spoke first. The massive Draco's commander presented his evidence with calculated precision. He showed genetic modification reports from Project Genesis. He displayed footage of Jiwoo's transformations. He argued that humanity had deceived the Council by hiding their genetic weapons program. "These are not natural beings," Corvin declared, his voice booming through the chamber. "Earth has created artificial soldiers designed to inspire fear in other species. They admitted humanity knowing they possess these weapons. This is a violation of Council law and common decency." Murmurs spread through the assembly. Many species looked troubled. Others nodded in agreement. The evidence was damning. Ambassador Minho took his turn to speak. Unlike Corvin's aggressive approach, he was calm and measured. "War Minister Corvin is correct that Earth created the Genesis program," Minho began. "We will not deny this, but let me provide context that he conveniently omitted." Minho activated his own holographic display. It showed Earth's history in brutal detail. The wars, the weapons, the near-extinction events. But also the art, the music, the cooperation that followed every conflict. The capacity for both destruction and creation. Humanity evolved on a Class 9 Deathworld, Minho explained. We survived by becoming the most dangerous thing on a planet full of dangers. When we discovered we were not alone in the universe, we faced a terrifying question. What if we were the weakest species out here? What if others saw us as prey? He paused, letting that sink in. So yes, we created insurance. We activated genetic sequences that exist in all humans but normally remain dormant. We made 12 children who could defend humanity if we faced extinction, but we never planned to use them aggressively. They were meant to live normal lives unless our species was threatened. That makes them weapons held in reserve. Corvin interrupted. Threats waiting to be unleashed. No, Minho said firmly. It makes them people with abilities they did not ask for, trying to live normal lives. Would you call a Varkosian warrior a weapon because they have 4 arms and armored scales? Would you call a Draco soldier a weapon because they breathe fire? The comparison hit hard. Many species in the Council had military forces with natural advantages. Suddenly, the line between natural ability and genetic enhancement seemed less clear. The difference, Corvin argued, is that those are natural evolutions. Humans manufactured their advantages, did we? Minho challenged. Or did we simply activate what evolution already gave us? Every genetic sequence in a Genesis child exists in normal humans. We merely unlocked them. Is that so different from the cybernetic enhancements many species use, or the genetic therapies that extend life? Elder Vesh raised a hand for silence. Ambassador Minho raises valid points. But the council must hear from the subject herself. Ji-woo, please approach. Ji-woo walked to the speaker's position. Her legs felt weak, but she stood straight. Thousands of eyes watched her. She wondered how many saw a person and how many saw a weapon. I did not ask to be created this way, Ji-woo began. Her voice was quiet but clear. I did not choose my abilities. For most of my life, I did not even know about them. I just wanted to be normal. She looked directly at Corvin. When Kieran attacked me, I could have hurt him. My body activated defenses I did not understand, but I did not attack. I warned him to run, and he did. When the gravity well crushed students at the festival, I could have escaped. I could have saved only myself. Instead, I chose to suffer so others could live. Her voice grew stronger. That is what makes me human. Not my strength or my genetics, but my choices. Every species here evolved to survive their world's challenges. Mine made me capable of terrible things, but also capable of incredible ones. Judge me by my actions, not my potential. The chamber fell silent. Then slowly, some representatives began to pulse lights or make sounds of approval in their native customs. Before the voting could begin, the chamber doors burst open. Kieran entered, his forearms carrying data storage devices. Behind him walked Hyun, both of them looking determined. I have evidence, Kieran announced, his voice carrying, despite lacking any amplification, evidence of conspiracy and manipulation. Elder Vesh gestured for them to approach. This is highly irregular, but proceed. Kieran activated the devices. Holographic displays showed communication logs, payment records, and strategic planning documents. All of it traced back to Draco's intelligence operations. I was contacted anonymously and fed information designed to make me hate humans, Kieran said, shame evident in his voice. I was manipulated into attacking Ji-woo to force her transformation. The festival sabotage was also orchestrated by Draco's operatives. All of it was planned to expose and discredit humanity. Hyun added his evidence. We also discovered that the Draco's empire has its own genetic enhancement program. One far more aggressive and militaristic than Project Genesis. They have been creating enhanced soldiers for decades. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions. Corvin's scales flushed dark with rage. These are lies. Corvin roared. Fabrications designed to deflect from human crimes. Elder Vesh raised his hand and silence fell. His telepathic abilities could verify truth. He examined the evidence carefully, his glowing eyes distant. The evidence is authentic, Elder Vesh declared. War Minister Corvin, you orchestrated these attacks. You manipulated events to discredit humanity while hiding your own empire's genetic programs. This tribunal's focus must shift. Corvin's expression turned murderous. He looked at Talon in the audience, and some silent communication passed between them. Talon stood and began moving toward the exits, but he never made it. He turned suddenly and rushed at Ji-woo, a blade appearing in his hand. The attack was fast, desperate, meant to kill. Ji-woo saw him coming. Time slowed. Her eyes turned black. But this time she was fully aware, fully in control. She moved like water, flowing around Talon's blade. Her hand caught his wrist and twisted, not breaking it but controlling it. She swept his legs and took him to the ground gently, efficiently, without unnecessary force. Within 2 seconds, Talon was pinned and disarmed. The entire tribunal watched. They saw the black eyes. They saw the speed and strength, but they also saw perfect control. Ji-woo could have killed Talon easily. Instead, she restrained him without injury. Security rushed in to take Talon into custody. Ji-woo released him and stood, her eyes fading back to brown. She was breathing hard but smiling slightly. Choice, she said simply, looking at the council. I could have hurt him. I chose not to. The demonstration was more powerful than any speech. The council had just witnessed a Genesis human at full capability, and she had chosen mercy over violence. Elder Vesh called for order. The tribunal will recess for deliberations. We must consider not only humanity's actions, but also the broader implications of genetic enhancement programs across all member species. As the chamber cleared, Kieran approached Ji-woo. He looked down at the small human who had terrified him so completely weeks ago. I owe you an apology, he said. I attacked you because of prejudice and manipulation. You would have every right to hate me. Ji-woo looked up at him. You were used. We both were, but you chose to make it right. That matters more than the mistake. She extended her hand. After a moment, Kieran took it with one of his massive hands. It was not friendship, not yet. But it was a beginning. 3 days later, the council delivered its verdict. Humanity's membership was affirmed and expanded, but all species with genetic or cybernetic enhancement programs would be required to disclose them under a new transparency accord. The Draco's empire faced sanctions for conspiracy and deception. War Minister Corvin was removed from power. The galaxy had changed, and at the center of that change stood a young woman with eyes that could turn black, who chose to protect instead of destroy. She was human. She was enhanced. She was both and neither. Most importantly, she was herself, and that was enough.